That's great. And really like a straightforward way, this is your second store, right? Like this is your second big product. So you have 37 Oaks University. This is
Mhm.
an expansion for you. So as you decided to go beyond your own block,
Yes.
what were sort of your decision points on? It sounds like, and I'm reflecting back what I heard you say. It sounds like you wanted to do something complementary to what you were doing, in your first option. So that's sort of one thing. It
Mhm.
also sort of made sense because it was necessary to sort of keep your customers successful, and it was a necessary step for them. And so when they succeed, you succeed. Were there any
Mhm.
other pieces of it that you decided to expand? Like, what were your decision points in expanding in the Saucony platform? Which, again, by the way, in Baltimore, we literally need and sold. Let's talk.
Well, I'm here. Um, but when it comes to expanding, you know, I I didn't have a team at first. Like when I tell you, people did not believe that one person or maybe one and a possible or one and a half persons were working on all of this stuff before I got the team. And that was tough because everything I do is self-funded per se, or from profits of the business and things like that. So I didn't get loans, I didn't need loans, I didn't feel like I needed, I just needed to grow. And getting a team, it required some money. And I was like, how is this gonna happen? Like, what is gonna happen? And expanding to a team, you have the financial side of it, but you also start to see yourself transition from like an entrepreneur to like a leader. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of different. Like it's not that I hadn't led people before, but when you're leading people in corporate America and you have marketing departments, you have finance departments, you kind of have the support of that in some form or fashion. But now I'm more than just an entrepreneur. Like I'm a business owner, I'm a leader. And I had to really make that transition to making business decisions that were going to impact other people and not me. So like a lot of that expansion, it wasn't just on the business modeling side, it was also on the mind shift side. Again, in Prepare to Shift, another shameless plug, it's broken up into two sections. One is about mind shift. There's 7 principles under there about the mind shift that entrepreneurs have to go through. And then also the work shift, the things that they tactically have to do different if they're trying to take their business from late startup to early growth. And that's what I've learned. So that was like a big kind of shift or decision that I had to make when I started to branch into Saucony. And then we have another platform, it's the community, and there's some like resources and other business services behind that. And I was like, okay, I just have to do it and figure it out. And that's what we're doing now.
And there is that's huge, by the way. I do think Mind Shift, and not just the book, but also the concept is critical because, like you say, entrepreneurs create value. Like that's sort of at the base of it. You sort of rally, you adjust, you pivot, and you create value. Like that's the thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
As a leader or a CEO, sometimes you have to do that, but mostly you have to, create the conditions under which other people can create value or
Yeah.
be successful. And that's different. Like that is a different thing. So oftentimes, people don't make that shift and make terrible CEOs and they think, my company's not growing for XYZ reasons. And sometimes it's you, like you're just not the
Yes.
person to do it. So kudos to you for seeing it in yourself. Um,
Yes.
when I'm a business owner and I'm making that decision and you made it successfully, how would I know if I'm making it successfully or not? Like what would be some indicators do you think for like I'm making this transition well or I'm not making this transition well?
From the team perspective or just transition in general?
Transition in general. So like I'm entrepreneur, it's going well and I want to grow and I've got my second
Mhm.
location. How do I know if my transition to being an overall leader, CEO, is going well? Like what does it look like when it goes well?
I think one big indicator for me has been my team. And again, I didn't have to deal with this before. Um, I had to realize that I've always felt like my whole platform is bigger than me, right? When I say I do what I do, it's not that it's not for me, but it's for the business owners. It's so I could hire people and everything like that. I really have that like ingrained in our ethos of the company. So when I started to bring in people, seeing number one, how dedicated are they to your vision versus just the job, right? So you start to get a sense on if people are just showing up to check the box or are they really invested in what you're trying to do. Everyone on my team, and part of it, also has to do with recruitment and having an established culture when they come into the company, but everyone sees what we're doing. Like they see the impact that we have on the business owners, and they know it's more than just courses or coaching and everything. So for me, that was like, okay. And I had to work towards that, because when I first started hiring people, I didn't feel like I had a culture, because the culture was me, because I was working by myself and that was it. But I had to start to establish like these pillars of, what we believe in, how we respond to people through email. Like I am like very like methodical about that, because that's a part of who we are. So I think when you start to see that people are subscribing to your vision, and it's more than just a task, that's a big thing. How long are you retaining people? How long, and how do they work amongst themselves? This is another layer of it. At first, everyone was reporting into me, but I had to start to step back, that opportunity costing we were talking about, and have them work with each other. And that was a shift for me too, another shift. But now that they're able to work with each other and collaborate, I'm like, okay, something's going on right here. Something, I don't know what I did, but something's working here. So I think the biggest point of knowing if you're successful with it is going to be your team. And then, of course, the financial side. But, sometimes businesses go up and down, right? So just because your business is going down, it's not the end of forever. Just knowing what the source of it is. So I don't want people to be too concentrated in that as being some sort of, indicator on, if you're doing well or not. But of course, it definitely is. But you'll be able to see if everything is working right. It's going to start to reflect a little bit more, at least in consistency, when it comes to your financials. So those are the two areas that definitely come to mind: your financials and your team.
Is there a thing that you would say when I think about, when I think about trying to help people sort of make the transition now for themselves? Like you've been talking to them about Mindshift. I think you're dead on talking about team and the importance of that. Is there anything that you've seen repeated, like any internal battles they're fighting or they talk about? Are there any themes in those sort of like things they tell you that, they're not maybe telling somebody else, or you've heard it 15 times. And so you see, oh, here, you're going to struggle with this. I know this is coming, that sort of stuff. Are there any themes that come out in that? I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, one is definitely the microwave entrepreneur. A lot of so I'll back up. I do a lot of coaching and a lot of teaching, right? So I interact with a lot of business owners, and it is not uncommon, especially in like one-on-one coaching sessions, for people to break down in tears. I get that a lot, like a lot, just because it's a level of comfort. One of the pillars of our organization is empathy. Like we are our customers. So I need them to feel comfortable, because when they're comfortable, they relax and they absorb information, but they also tell us what they really, really need. So when they start crying, I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Like, what do you need? Like, what is it? And oftentimes, there's a few things. So one is they feel like they're not moving fast enough. And sometimes I understand it, because this could be their sole source of income. So they need the income to come in. Other times they're just like, I'm stuck. Like I'm doing this stuff that I've seen on YouTube University or wherever, and it's not moving me. And I feel like I should be further. Usually with those conversations, I end up having like what we talked about earlier, like this is not an overnight thing. Like this is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. And I think the way we talk through it, they may not want to hear it, but they understand that this is a reality and that what they're doing is a part of the process. Everybody goes through it. So it's kind of like the sense of you're not alone. This is not uncommon. This is what we go through. And that's the second part, is that oftentimes they don't have the community or the support around them. Many of our business owners, like I said, underfunded, underdeveloped areas. So they don't necessarily have mentors or people that they've seen that's done this. So they're relying on the microwave entrepreneur that they're seeing on Instagram to establish what's a benchmark for entrepreneurship. So when we do our cohorts and programs, a lot of what we're doing is we're bringing that community of like-minded business owners to say, you're not alone. Just because you're not doing what you see on Instagram, it doesn't mean you're not progressing. You're just progressing in a realistic fashion versus overnight. So a lot of what we're doing, and this is why I focus on the mind shift part of it, is kind of settling their mind and bringing some reality to the process so that they feel comfortable with moving forward. The last thing I want them to do is to be stagnant or frustrated or feel paralyzed because things are not moving at the way they think it should, when that's ideally, like, that's not realistic. So oftentimes that's it. And so I'd say those are like pretty much the really, really like big, deep things. And then you have things like, marketing isn't effective, or I can't find the right people to hire. I need money. I need grants, specifically grants.
Most common.
Yeah, exactly. Grants
Yeah,
is
I hear that
huge.
one.
A lot of my businesses, and understandably so, because of their business stage or financial situation, they don't want to take out loans right now until they get further down it. So they're looking for grants, or ways to find that, or programs that offer it. And then just mentorship and support. Once you settle their mind, they're better. They'll move forward. But if they're kind of stuck in their own head by themselves, that's when it gets scary, because then they want to just stop. And I'm like, no, you can't stop. You got to keep going.
I just
So
get that.
oh,
I mean, it seems intense, but one thing I'd love to hear from you is just like maybe a memory of an entrepreneur you helped that makes like your heart glow, or like just a fun. Because I
yeah.
heard tears, but I mean, I don't know if there's any moments where like, oh man, I knew them when.
Oh my goodness, there's a few of them. I just got a note. There was a business owner who was in a program with one of our sponsors or partners, and they were in a wholesale program. So we were teaching them everything about wholesale. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe like a 3-month long program. So we're going through all the parts and pieces. And this person had an amazing line, like a greeting card line. And she was just at the stage where it's like, she just didn't know what to do. She had a unique product, but trying to communicate the value, trying to communicate the positioning, let alone trying to get into wholesale. Like, how are we going to do this? How do you pitch your product? Like, what are buyers thinking, and everything? And I remember each time we had our coaching sessions and classes, she was really involved with the conversation. So even after the program, she reached out just for some additional like support. And I just, gave it to her. And she emailed me and posted on social and tagged that they were in, I think it was World Market or something across the US now. They got all of their products in there. So to hear that, it's like, wow, I was a part of that journey, right? Because when I first met her, she was just even thinking about wholesale. And now she's in these stores nationwide. Another business owner, similar concept. But now they're in like, I know all Walgreens in Illinois at least, and then they're expanding to other locations. So when I hear, there's a lot of them, and I need to do a better job of capturing them, honestly. But when it comes to seeing their growth from, I don't know if I could do this, to I've actually done this, like those are the really big ones. But then I have some that after our coaching sessions, they say, I feel like I can fly. Like, I feel like I can keep going. Like, even though that's not such a big jump of, I want to get into wholesale to now I'm in every, Whole Foods or whatever, the ones that I hear that say they're going to keep going, like, to me, I'm good. Like, time to go to bed. Good night. Like, I'm all set. So there's honestly a lot of them in different capacities. And I'm really proud of a lot of the business owners we work with.
How are you thinking about, and I know we are using like all your time, you're being very generous. We have
Like an
lot
8-hour.
I know we have a lot more we need to talk about. But how are you thinking of expansion for yourself for 37 Oaks? And what's the next plan? How are you making that decision? Like, you've already started to expand your footprint. What's coming next, and how are you deciding on that?
Yeah, we've actually been thinking quite a lot about that, as always. I'm thinking about it. Number one, we have a whole United States full of partners that we haven't tapped into. We're pretty deep in Chicago, as we mentioned, but we have, because we work with financial institutions, economic development organizations, we work with cities and so, we have a lot more to reach there. So having those
Small
opportunities.
group called One More Store.
One more, there you go. Check the box, right? So there's a lot more of that we need to focus on, because the core of our product is pretty sound, right? In terms of the core of it. So taking that and being able to expand it to other cities and eventually countries is going to be on the map as well. So really adamant about getting that out. Also diving a little bit more into some of our, call it business support services. So I didn't talk about the third platform very much, but we have 37 Oaks University, we have Saucony, and then we have the community. The community is more about connecting the business owners to resources and services. And like right now we have like product photography services. They could get some like social media graphics. We don't really promote it that much because I'm still kind of in test and learn a little bit with that. But we also have our warehouse and fulfillment center, which right now is more to support Saucony, but there's some other opportunities there that we could use to really leverage that asset. So when it comes to growth and innovation, I'm on it. That's one of the things that I'm definitely pushing forward. And that's why building that team was important. So I can step back from some of those operational things and they could do it and I could focus more on the growth and innovation. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of that to come. I'm excited about it, actually. Very.
And I know I love that. And we're here to, global takeover.
Exactly.
And we do hear the need because I mean, we just said we were going to start recording people that work in this space and people started calling us like, oh, do you offer this class? And I'm like,
yes, exactly.
Stay tuned when we all work together. But the other thing I'd love to just like for our listeners, my final question would be, you're really familiar with this like growth entrepreneur, trying to get that one more store, one more product out there. What's a way that like our listeners can help that like entrepreneur, like if you're thinking about practitioners, chambers of commerce, what can the ecosystem, I suppose, do to help this space that you'd love for them to do?
Yeah, I think, I mean, of course, shameless plug, but
work with you.
No, and even if it's not 37 Oaks, it's the similar type of methodology or like platforms, because once businesses get that general business education, they need more than general business education to grow. They need to declare a major. They need that language for that major. And if they don't have it, it's going to be hard for them, because if you're opening a second, let's say, dental office or urgent care, you're not going to hire someone to manage that second dental office or urgent care that was managing a Target, right? You want to get someone who has that dental, at least industry experience, or that, urgent care medical experience. So for these businesses to actually grow, they need that language and they need someone to speak that language. Just because someone was an expert in, costing of goods, to your point earlier, Adam, it doesn't mean that they know how to teach. So oftentimes with this particular business, the ones that we service, they need someone to know that they're genuinely relating to them, because it's such an emotional journey for them to be on, that if they feel like they're getting taught to, they'll get the information, but they're not going to absorb it all, let alone apply it all. So being able to have that connection and that space to feel like, okay, I'm vulnerable. This is what I really, really need. And this is how you could really, really help me. If you can create that space for them, that's where I think the magic is. So 37 Oaks, of course, does that. But if it's not 37 Oaks, whoever you work with, practitioner, organization, just making sure that they follow a similar type of model, I think is important.
But the element of time is part of what you made me think about when you talked about like declaring the major. Again, it didn't pop into my head until the end, but you go to school or college, if you go and there's no expectation. I have no expectation. My college freshman, who just finished, by the way, just finished her freshman year, is, it's 3 more years. I have no expectation she's gotten the full experience in year one. She's got 3 more years. Have you seen anything work successfully to sort of explain to people initially, you're going to start this cool thing and it's going to be about e-commerce, and, we're going to take your product and we're going to move you forward. How do you explain to them? Or is there a programmatic way to explain to them that this is going to take time besides just, saying we won't even offer you something in year one. We're going to wait till year 2 to talk to you, or 6 months from now to talk to you. Have you seen anything work that way? And I know we don't want to go down another rabbit hole because we've already used an hour of your time.
No, you're
6
fine.
months from now, we'll do part 2.
We do have to do part 2. We do.
Well, just very high level. No, but of course I came up with something. So for my book, seriously, because a lot of what we do at 37 Oaks is around the tactical e-commerce stuff. And I'm like, there's a mind shift part of this that we have to address. And this is the realities of entrepreneurship that I'm not talking about in e-commerce shipping class, right? I talk about it in coaching. So I knew there was a need for it, because when people break down crying and then you have conversations, you're like, okay, how do I structure this? So for the book, I have workshops now, and each of those sections of the book that talk about timing, or those the resources, the funding, the everything that we just talked about related to the book, I have a workshop for it. So now it's more in a workshop format, a group setting, and we're able to deliver some of those principles. So in addition to the one-on-one coaching sessions, I then do the workshops. But outside of that, I personally haven't seen any solutions out there. That's why I had to come up with something, but that's definitely necessary for these businesses, because you have to set expectations. You have to show at least the average realities. Doesn't mean people can't go faster or slower, but you have to like set those, because if not, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to get paralyzed and they're going to stop. And that's the absolute worst thing that can happen. I need them to go, may not be fast, but keep just moving forward. So yeah, I agree that that's something that's definitely needed.
Well, I think this conversation, I mean, people are probably just raring to go sign up. So, Amazon, like how can people read all the books apparently, but read books, get involved, like, join up with all of your resources. Just so love to go through, like, how can people find you?
Yeah, so everything is really at 37oaks.com. We have a lot of information on our site. So even if you just join the community for free, 37oaks.com, you'll see community. There's a lot of just free resources there, and paid, but also free resources. So most small businesses tend to go there. In terms of the book, it's Prepare to Shift. You can find it on Amazon. You could also go to taransmith.com. There's a link there too to buy it as well. And you can learn more about our workshops there. So I'm pretty easy to find on social. So if you look at either Taran Smith or 37 Oaks, we're on there too.
Awesome. And we'll put all those on the crawler as well, so people will get to see them. But and thank you so much. This has been really, really valuable. Really appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. It's really amazing. Impressive.
I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to part 2 or whatever we're going to do next. So this is awesome. Thank you.